And showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup. A look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I am executive editor of the ChannelPro Network and one of your hosts on this program. I am seated side by side here in sunny Florida. Once again, 2 weeks ago, we were in Florida side by side. Here we are again. Erick Simpson, a business improvement and transformation expert for MSPs and other IT providers. Erick, tell folks why we're here.
We're here at the ConnectWise IT Nation Connect event for 2019, Rich, and quite a show it's been so far.
It is. And, let's just go ahead and dive into the enormous story that broke on day one of this conference here. Now, for those of you who, like us, spend a fair amount of time out on the conference circuit, you're talking to vendors. Not an enormous surprise, actually, because there have been rumors circulating for quite some time that there might be something big coming up involving Continuum. And we've heard different variations of what that could be. Maybe they're buying someone, maybe they're being bought. We found out what that story was all about yesterday. ConnectWise has acquired Continuum and ITBOOST. This is the latest development in an ongoing string of enormous merger and acquisition activities among vendors in the managed services space, all of it fueled and funded by private equity money that's flowing into this market. All of that money flowing in as investors of various kinds understand both the enormous scale today and the enormous potential of the managed services space. If you look at, looking at it on the whiteboard, if you look at how ConnectWise and Continuum line up, this deal makes an enormous amount of sense. Both those companies have an RMM tool, and we can kind of circle back to that in a little bit. But really beyond that, there isn't a whole lot of overlap. There are a lot of complementary aspects to these different portfolios. So on the ConnectWise side, you've got a really robust set of line of business applications for MSPs, RMM, PSA, quoting, remote control. On the Continuum side, you have BDR, a fairly robust security suite that they've rolled out within the last year and a half, and also outsourced NOC and help desk services. And so from an MSP perspective, you put all this together, you've got the tools you need to run your business, you've got the option of using those tools to deliver things like help desk and network operations center yourself. You've also got access to services if you want to run the kind of business where you're outsourcing that kind of thing instead. It's a fairly complete offering, basically, with a lot of different options, a lot of flexibility for MSPs of different kinds and different sizes. And it gets ConnectWise into BDR and into security for the first time. Really, they were focused on line of business tools exclusively before. Plus, by adding ITBOOST to the mix, there is a whole new line of business application for MSPs that checks a pretty important box for them, because we know that SolarWinds bought Passport earlier in the year. They have a documentation tool now. Kaseya bought IT Glue late last year, so they obviously have documentation as well. Now ConnectWise can tell that story to their MSPs too. So a huge development in this industry, Erick, that if nothing else takes two of the biggest names in the managed services software space and turns them into one.
Yeah, it is, and there have been, as you said, breadcrumbs along the way that have, had us all wondering, and we've been talking about it a little bit on the 5-minute roundup. And, while there is a little bit of overlap, I think between the two companies, I know that Continuum has, their RMM tool, and obviously ConnectWise does as well. I've got to wonder, Rich, how much the SOC really had in terms of value in this negotiation, because at the end of the day, adding the NOC and service desk, I think that's attractive, but I think really there was probably a much more strategic valuation and accelerant placed because of the SOC. As you know, everyone's rushing to security. So I think from the Continuum side of the house, I'm just wondering, when they started adding that, how much more that made it attractive for ConnectWise. And of course, ITBOOST, I think this was ConnectWise's way of saying, okay, Kaseya et al., we've got, we can compete there as well, because, with the big IT Glue acquisition, that was a huge partner base that, immediately Kaseya had access to. And while ITBOOST is a little bit, newer than IT Glue was at the time of the acquisition. There's a tremendous potential, and of course, it gives ConnectWise the ability to kind of, I don't know, forget about the BizDoc solution that they were using before that. I know a lot of partners, had particular opinions about it.
Have already forgotten about that tool. Yeah, so no, this is a much more complete and robust kind of offering. And I was just meeting with the ITBOOST guys a few hours ago, and they were talking about how from the beginning their vision for the product was really that would be the first console that you're looking at in the morning to kind of get a feel for what's going on across your business, and then it's going to connect you off to the tools that you use to actually run the business and remote into systems and respond to tickets and so on. And ConnectWise is apparently 100% on board with that vision. So I think down the road, as you see them integrate that tool much more closely in with ConnectWise Manage and ConnectWise Automate, that's going to begin to be the role that ITBOOST plays there. But I want to circle back to what you're saying about security, because I think it's absolutely correct. I mean, there are a lot of things to like about the Continuum product set, and a lot of things that I'm sure were attractive to ConnectWise, but nothing more so, I'm sure, than the security portfolio, and particularly the managed security piece of that. I was talking to one of the vendors on the show floor here yesterday who is in the security space, and basically said that there may be no better place to be in IT right now than at the intersection of managed services and security, because security is taking off as an enormous market, and so are managed services. And so, ConnectWise really needed to be a part of that. They had some security tools. In March, they introduced a risk assessment tool. They acquired a services company called Sienna. They had an investment in Perch Security, but they didn't really have the kinds of security tools that some of their competitors do. And this, in one fell swoop, if you will, really does get them into that story.
Right. It's kind of the layers of the security stack that they're kind of putting together. If you kind of, as you mentioned, kind of look at the Sienna acquisition and some of these other strategic acquisitions, it's building that security competency that, I wouldn't be surprised from start to finish we might see something be attracted to them from a compliancy perspective next, because if you're tracking what how these acquisitions are rolling out, I think that's a big piece that would kind of be the icing on the cake.
That's a good call. That's a good call. We'll have to see. A few things we'll have to see. I've spoken to them already, because we've mentioned they've got 2 RMM systems, and I think a lot of people are going to be curious to know what is the future of those products. And the honest answer that I got straight from the CEO of ConnectWise is we don't know yet. This deal is so new that they literally haven't had a chance to sit down and think their way through that, and that work is going to begin as soon as this conference here ends. They're going to start working on the roadmap. The hint that they dropped essentially is right now what they feel particularly good about coming out of the Continuum deal is they have tools to offer 2 kinds of MSPs. The ones that Jason McGee, the CEO, referred to as do-it-yourselfers, the people who want to manage the business entirely in-house, and the outsourcers, the people who want to lean on an outsourced network operations center or help desk, for example. And it makes perfect sense maybe for them to have 2 different RMM tools for those 2 different kinds of MSP. And then, the other thing to think about, on the surface, it might seem like, well, what company would want 2 different RMM platforms? But, SolarWinds has had 2 different RMM platforms for a while, and they haven't fallen into the twilight zone or something. I mean, it seems to be working okay for them. So it is possible to imagine a future in which both of those products continue. But, they could get rolled together in one way or another as well, and we'll have to see. And then the other thing, of course, we'll have to see is how is the potential of these acquisitions realized. As I think I said before, on the whiteboard, it looks really good. And now it's when they get down to work and make it real.
One final thought before we move on, just listening to the conversation so far, I now I'm beginning to appreciate the ability for ConnectWise now to support the needs of the entire business growth life cycle of an organization, right? So if they're attracting smaller customers that need to outsource some of these components and things like that until they get to that tipping point, Rich, of business maturity, where they begin to bring those services back in-house. And that may be a way for them to attract partners, with a lower cost RMM solution, with some outsourced services, and over time as they grow and mature, they stay with ConnectWise, and then they bring that stuff in-house and maybe switch to different tool sets and things like that.
So I had a brief conversation earlier today with Arnie Bellini, the founder of ConnectWise, formerly the CEO, and that was exactly what he emphasized as he was kind of talking about this deal. Is if you are somebody, if you're still in the break-fix world, you want to get into managed services, boom, instant in with Continuum. And, you know, you can just turn it on and you're an MSP essentially. And then as you grow the business and get your sea legs under you, you can start to, you know, grow into some of these other tools. So yeah, that ability to start with the newest MSP and support them as they get far more mature, far bigger is something that I think is very exciting to ConnectWise. So, you know, here we are in Florida, and the weather is actually still good enough to spend some time by the pool. And if you're going to be hanging out by the pool, you need a good book, Eric. So I think your tip of the week might give people a suggestion on that.
You bet. It's the latest book by J.K. Rowling. No, I kid. It's a business book, of course. And the tip of the week this week is $1 Million Consulting by Alan K. Weiss, Weiss. If you have not picked up this book, I think it's in its 5th revision right now, and it's in its best revision. There's also an audiobook available, which I recommend for those of us that, you know, travel a lot or just aren't the reading type. This book really introduced me to a very strategic way, Rich, years ago to sell services consultatively, to price services consultatively, and to reflect the value of your services in every client engagement. And this is where you know, I borrowed Alan's methodology of offering 3 options in every proposal, because Alan posits that if you offer 3 options rather than 1 option, i.e. take it or leave it, it's a very binary yes or no decision on the buyer's side, to transitioning to 3 options, it changes the buyer's psychology subtly but significantly to, oh, instead of should I or shouldn't I, to how should I? And that is a dramatic difference, allowing you to create bundles and tiers of services with each successively higher priced bundle or tier, adding more qualitative value. So not more of the same from bundle 1, but what's in bundle 1 plus these additional valuable features and benefits. And Alan says when you do that, you increase the opportunity to sell those 2 higher bundles by 85%. So 3 options when you're offering it that way and you're pricing and bundling properly to drive that decision-making process. Buyers will buy your first option 15% of the time, your second option 60% of the time, and your third option 25% of the time. So it's really valuable. He also has a great proposal template, which I've also you know, borrowed and tweaked and modified with clients to really help position these services that way. And you know, I'm not only, you know, a reader, but I'm a practitioner of these philosophies, and so I can attest that it really does work, and it helps you transition yourself into more of that consultative service and sales practice. So $1 Million Consulting, Alan K. Weiss.
Check it out. And you know, it's interesting that principle, the general principle that you're going to offer your customers 3 different options, and a lot of them are going to land in the middle. And so that goes way beyond managed services. There's all sorts of research that in pretty much any industry, whatever it is you're trying to sell, if you give people 3 options, the second option is what they're going to buy. So yeah, it absolutely works in managed services too.
Right. And you know, this isn't something that, you know, Alan just thought up. I mean, these are basic sales principles that have been, you know, practiced and handed down for ages. I mean, you read enough sales books and go to enough sales training, you pick out, okay, this is just that methodology or that theory kind of spun a different way. But you know, at the core of it, you know, there's that whole psychology of 3s, right? With humans, it's 3s, 3s, 3s. So you know, Google that, and you'll be blown away by the power of the number 3 and how that affects our decision-making process.
Well, great stuff. We have time for just one more story this week, and this is kind of returning to something that we spoke about before. Regular viewers of the 5-Minute Roundup will probably recall that we chatted a little bit here on the show when the Popeyes fried chicken sandwich first came out, and craziness ensued, and acts of violence, and all sorts of madness.
Anarchy.
Chicken sandwich inspired anarchy. And you know, I think our take on this on the show here was A, it's just a sandwich, and B, yes, they're sold out, people, but they'll probably make more at some point down the road. And the wait is over, people. We were right. November 3rd, the Popeyes chicken sandwich returns. Maybe a little less anarchy. Maybe they'll be ready for it this time. I was reading actually that one Popeyes franchisee, I don't know how many stores he owns, but this is one franchisee, is hiring 400 people just in anticipation of the increased demand that he is going to see due to the chicken sandwich. So I do think there will be maybe some lines and so on, but just keep cool, people, keep cool. I think this time we're going to have an adequate supply of sandwiches.
Let's hope so, because I'd hate to have to be like the DMV and have to schedule an appointment to come get my sandwich, right? So November 3rd. I can't wait. I can't wait to try one.
Jot that down, people. Well, that is all the time we've got this week on the 5-Minute Roundup. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like this show, want to take a look at some older episodes, keep up with the new ones, what you want to do is go to the ChannelPro Network channel on YouTube and subscribe to that. Make sure you click that little bell to get notifications when new episodes become available. We've got a ton of coverage of ConnectWise, Continuum, ITBOOST, of the IT Nation event here, and all sorts of other stuff, including great tips for growing your business on ChannelProNetwork.com. Awesome new content goes live there every day, in fact. If you want to learn more about Erick and the work that he does with his clients, the place to go is ErickSimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. We're going to be back again next week with another episode of the 5-Minute Roundup for you. Once again, we will be seated in the same place at the next ChannelPro SMB Forum event in Newark, New Jersey. I hope many of you choose to join us there in person as well. Until then, please, folks, enjoy the rest of your week. Erick and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.